Okay, class, we had to change our internet connection because the internet connection you know, was giving us some problems. So we have a new internet connection now. So please, let's shift to this so that we can conclude the class. Okay, let's shift to this. Thank you very much. My apologies for the challenges that we've had, with the connection. Uh, the Nigerian uh, system. Yeah, we have challenges. I know at some point things will be better in the country, and some of these things will avoid it. Anyway, anyway, let me just take off from where I left off. We were looking at the question from Joy in Mafidom. Yes, Joy in Mafidom. We're examining the question of Joy in Mafidom with reference to the extent with which you can go, as a leader in trying to uh, engage with your subordinates at the personal level. And I mentioned the fact that you must be able to sense, to be sensitive in the spirit to know who can be accommodative, and who may not be accommodative when it comes to trying to relate with people at the personal level because of the need of pursuing the vision. Because when you relate with people at the personal level, there's a deeper connection. You know, some people react wrongly or negatively towards any attempt, to connect with them at a lower level or at a more personal level. Then that is an indication for you to know that they've drawn a line. They've drawn a line. So you watch that line. You keep a distance from that line. And I also mentioned the fact that there are some people that will open up to you. They will open up to you. That means they themselves, they are opening a line. So you use wisdom as a leader to see who has drawn a line, you know, and then who is opening a line for you, who needs help from you. There are people who, sincerely need help, and you may not have the solution to their problems, but by showing some form of empathy, the fact that you are hearing them, the fact that you are listening to them, then you have made a connection at the personal level, and it is uh, definite that they will now be able to connect to the vision and work. Last question is from Emanuela, and the question says, uh, in a fast-paced world, i.e., an organization where you have to make a decision very quick to salvage a situation, how practical is the idea of a leader bringing a team member with different perspective to see other perspectives before you make that decision, as discussed, in unity and diversity. In our last class, we discussed unity and diversity, and I established the fact that in order for the concept of Trinity to function properly, there must be unity in diversity, because the concept of Trinity shows three different concepts working together in unity. That means that they may be different. The different factors, the different aspects of God may be different, but essentially they work together in unity. That's the core, okay? That's the core of perichoresis. That's the core of it. Now, if you realize that there are some people who are with you, but they are not together with you, they are in that organization, but they do not share the same perspective as you. But as a leader, you want to use the concept of unity in diversity. It does not necessarily mean that you must have 100% agreement. It's not necessary that there must be 100% agreement. That's the reason why we have the concept of democracy. Democracy does not necessarily mean that somebody will have 100% of the vote. No. But the moment you have a majority of the vote, of course, you know that the vast majority of the populace, are engaged, they are in line with this issue. So you can move forward with the vast majority. We are not saying that the minority should not have a voice. The minority does have a voice in the sense that we're looking at something that would benefit the vast majority. So it may not benefit them in its entirety, but there's a percentage with which it benefits them. But the majority have a vast amount of benefit, more benefits than the minority. Regardless, when you're making this decision, you may not be able to carry everybody along. The key is, how do you treat the minority who have not been carried along in that decision? You have this person who holds a different perspective on the issue. And your question is that, should I make a decision outside of the conformity of this person to that decision? If it is a spur of the moment thing that we need to make a decision fast, do I need to bring the person's perspective in and then we'll start haggling over it? In most instances, you may not need to bring the person in because you already have a majority. That's the reason why sometimes the organization or the head of the church or the head of the family may make a decision of the interest of the people that I'm leading. It makes that decision at the spur of the moment. And he knows that that decision that they have made is for the majority of the people, is for the interest of the people. Now, the aftermath of making that decision may be that certain elements in the organization whose perspective is different decides to challenge the decision. Of course, many people will challenge your decisions. The decision of Jesus Christ was challenged. Even God's decision is challenged every day on a daily basis. People keep challenging the decision of God. How much more your own decision as a leader, a director, a HOD, or whatever. People will challenge your decision. Now, the key in leadership is, how do you handle the dissenting voices? How do you handle the person whose perspective is different post decision? After the decision has been made, how do you handle it? It's the critical aspect of leadership. And that is where the concept of unity in diversity comes in. You have a different opinion, but I want you to be part of the process. So once the decision has been made and the person challenges the decision and says, I am not in agreement with this decision. This decision was made the alpha and omega of the organization. It is not, if we don't consult you, that will move forward. You are just one out of the many people that make up the leadership of, the heads, or the directors or the deputy director of the HODs. You're just one. You are not somebody that decides whether the organization moves forward or not. So the leader in itself must have that as the back of his mind. This person, you first of all pull the person in. How do you do that? By presenting the urgency of the situation. Okay, this decision had to be made at the spur of the moment. And in the spirit of unity and diversity, we are calling you in at this point in time. You were not available when this decision was being made. And it had to be made in spite, of your own position. So we are presenting this to you now, so that you can be aware that this decision has been made and this is the direction we are going towards. Now, observe that when you make a decision and you disregard information, bringing people into the know, that's a very wrong step that gives a wrong signal that that decision was made regardless of the person's feeling or the person's mindset or the person's thinking. So even though the person may not agree with the decision, but the manner in which the decision-making process is being handled gives the person that feeling that I am part of it. I am being pulled into the decision-making process. I am being brought into the know about what is happening. You observe that a lot of leaders make decisions without informing. There's no information. That means they don't care whether you accept, you are in line with the decision, you follow the decision, you agree with the decision or not. They don't care about it. So what that does is that it creates a gap. It deepens does is that it creates a gap. It deepens the gap between the people who are not 100% on board on that decision and you as a leader. Even if somebody is not on board, the manner in which you relate to the person with reference to the decision-making process, the person will feel that my opinion is respected, even though my opinion is not accepted or my opinion is not integrated in this decision-making process. But the fact that my own opinion is respected, the person has that understanding that in future decisions, that opinion which is respected will be taken into cognizance. So once you do not respect the opinion of people, they know that because you have not respected my opinion, the likelihood of you, taking my opinion seriously is low. So that means that person will not want to engage with the decision-making process again, or even the processes that build up to the decision-making, you will not want to engage again. So for that question, how do you engage with the person post-decision is the solution, because the whole decision-making process cannot be held to ransom because that person is not around. You have to make the decision and then move forward. This is with reference to mutual interdependence. When we're discussing mutual interdependence in the last class, this is in reference to it. Because in an organization, in a church, in a family, in real life situations, human beings depend on each other. And the leader must be able to, build consistent levels of interdependence, make use of people in their different capacities to move or push forward the agenda. You don't ignore some people and create the impression that they are useless. They have no role to play in the general success of that particular vision. No, you don't do that. Make sure that you create mutual interdependence so that people will bring in the different strengths that they have in order to push forward the agenda. Now, finally, on this issue, to conclude, we have two issues that we just raised briefly, and then maybe questions can come up, and then we will look at them, in the next class. Servant leadership and transformative community. When we're looking at perichoresis, how there has to be interdependence within the Godhead, of the Trinity, that same concept of interdependence, we have, transported it, to ourselves as human beings, to organizations, to churches, families, so on and so forth. But another critical factor that enables such to function and work properly is the capacity of leaders to be servants, servant leadership. Now, the question that is in your mind, are there other forms of leadership that are not servant in nature? Of course, there are. We have dictatorial leadership. We have dictatorial leadership. We have bureaucratic leadership. There are several types of leadership. But servant leadership has a unique character about it that lends itself to the issue that we're discussing. Servant leadership. That means this leader, though he is a leader, he is leading using the principles of a servant. Though he is the head, he prefers to use the principles of a servant to lead. That's what servant leadership is. So, how does servant leadership enable us achieve the purpose of transformative community? How do you transform your community? Let's break down community to different levels: the school community, the office community, the home community, the church community. How does a servant leader engender transformation within communities? Of course, a dictatorial leader cannot bring about transformation in these communities that I have mentioned: the home community, the church community, the office community, the organization community. A dictatorial leader cannot do that. Many of us had opportunity to experience a dictatorial leader. This is something that is not strange. We have lived, some of us that are older have lived under Abacha. We lived under Babangida regime, the Abacha regime, under military rule. And we understand what it means to live under dictatorship. It's not funny to live under dictatorship. Initiative is stifled. Okay? Initiative is stifled. People cannot express themselves. There's no freedom and liberty of speech. People can't say the truth again. Because if you say the truth, you may be assassinated. Remember Telegiwa? That means when there's a dictatorial leadership, the form of leadership that insists on pressure, oppression, and compulsion that people must follow a path, that form of leadership is always going to face a detachment from the people. Nobody wants to be compelled. Nobody wants to be forced. Nobody wants to be oppressed. So anytime you have that form of leadership, whether it is at home, in the family, in the office, in the place of worship, the same result is likely to come up. The people that are being led are not inspired. That's number one. They will never be inspired. Because rather than inspiring them, you are compelling them. And they will not release themselves wholly to the vision because they feel that they are not inspired. They don't have, the passion for that particular vision to accomplish that thing. They are being compelled. So you see those people do whatever they need to do because of the fear of the leader. When the leader is not around, nobody's working. But the moment the leader comes here, everybody's scrambling around to make sure that they do one or two things. Nobody's inspired. But when you are dealing with servant leadership, the servant leader takes it upon himself to serve the people. That I am not a big deal, but it was a demonstration, an indication of what he wanted to teach them about servant leadership.